a lot of people who are working with business executives, they exploring ways how to make it work better, and they always try to enhance this human element of business leadership and how important it is. But it's very rarely that we get to see people actually bridging that gap that business leaders are expected to be, those grateful, humble, and empathetic. It's the kind of qualities that we want to see in our leaders, especially like as employees working with them, but at the same time, think about the emotional toll. If those business leaders, they just have to be in that state all the time while solving lots of challenging issues that can like get anyone off their emotional balance. So is it really attainable? Or do they have to be like really like enlightened, business people? Do we really want to see, some sort of like saints in the corporate environment, if that's possible? Maybe it's not really possible, but there's an interesting development, because I did talk last year with millionaires who actually do apply some of those esoteric principles in their work, and they do seem to work very well, because of course you start with some basic things like intuition, and then they use certain tricks how they can actually stay connected with the collective unconscious, and foresee things, and develop that feeling for certain events, and especially since they're dealing with a lot of money, they kind of embrace the lower energies of the material world, and that seemed to be working for them very well, because if they got together and they kind of started a club of millionaires, then they were sharing their experiences freely, and you can see that they are in a way enlightened business people, just because one thing that really makes them stand out, I really observed that they're always ready to go down. They're always ready to lose whatever money they have. They're not hanging on to their status. It's not like they're hoarding all this money, but they keep projecting themselves, and they see themselves in various situations where it's quite possible that they can end up, stranded, not having enough resources for their projects, and not being able to do lots of things. So therefore, the fact that they are humble and they are prepared to go down and take up whatever jobs they will need to do just to stay afloat and continue making money, I think that's the trait they all shared. So I would not say they're religious, because they didn't produce an impression like being pious or something, or anything close to an occult. I did not hear any phrases that would point in direction of some esoteric teachings and stuff, but there were bits and pieces of that, thrown around. I'm just talking about the way they apply them in their daily activities, like giving money back and giving money to the poor, a certain percentage, whether it's the 10th of what you make, very close to that. So, and they were like really keeping their network, their way of connecting with each other, like this idea of interconnectedness, like really was very pronounced, vibrant. So it could have something to do with like other networks that people have when they the barter of services and trading favors, and then if you do it cleverly, you always end up on top of the game. That's one way of looking at it. But to see a mishmash of those components, makes you wonder that, okay, if that's how they lead their businesses and a set of rules, you may actually respect that, because it does remind you of a set of values, helping each other out, no questions asked, and that sort of stuff, So, but at the same time, one thing I noticed that even though being that plugged in, into this matrix of making money, they did kind of leave that impression of not being very healthy. There's something going on, and maybe just because even these people could be, donating money and like to charity, to churches and stuff like that. I don't think that they're kind of a spiritual. They're kind of that, So it's like a completely different offshoot of being enlightened, but not being enlightened. So it's actually like the enlightenment being stripped down to the factory settings. It's like no bells and whistles, but just nuts and bolts of how things work. And they were quite delighted to be running their little empires along those lines. So this is one example. And then, other business executives who I've come in contact with, they kind of like exhibit, different traits of character and their personalities and their, their skill sets and certain sets of beliefs, that carried them forward, carried them up the food chain. Makes you wonder sometimes, how they manage to keep the balance, because you've got to be tough most of the time. So to convert that toughness, the way you deal with people, you are not necessarily making lots of friends, just to stay in the game. So if you try to come across as a kind of caring father figure, which was common for a lot of Russian companies at some point, then it's not going to last very long, because even though they try to use a lot of charisma and project that level of care, everyone feels that this is just a facade. It's just the rules of engagement. So it's not like people will really believe that. So what I'm trying to say is that with the level of engagement with business executives, my mission is more like to empower the business people, just because they are the ones who will make a difference, and therefore I have had in place all my framework, the World Without Corruption International Alliance Foundation that I set up a decade ago in Brussels, and then the Conscious Enterprises Network with the co-founder Dominique Conterno, who is the CEO of the White Wolf Rising company in the UK, in Bristol. Is a wonderful individual, an amazing person leading this effort. So I'm happy to be a mentor for this organization, and joining it is really a great thing for a lot of conscious business people, because that's how you get connected. That's how you can exchange things with like-minded community. And therefore, I'm looking at my project, the Transformative Business Ethics Initiative, more like a way of helping business people do a bit of a detox and house cleaning, so that they re-emerge from this business lecture, from this business ethics lecture, totally transformed, without giving up the system of beliefs, without actually changing anything, because I am not doing any of that, not intellectually, not on any other level, not spiritually. Basically, I'm just triggering the process, and all that's going on inside of those business people, it's their own personal matter. My role is to start the process, make sure the ball is in the air until the completion of the program, which is very short and could be comprised of 2, 3, 4 sessions, depending on the individual. And each and every individual is met with what they have inside, inside of them. Any of that hidden potential that coaches usually talk about, yes, you can help people unlock their hidden potential. It takes time, it takes a lot of work. Now, in the COVID era, we no longer have time, because time is luxury we can't afford anymore. So same goes for business people. I mean, they really have those time constraints, and time is of essence to them. So therefore, if I tell them that it's going to take just several hours within, maybe a couple of weeks, I mean, it's a great deal. To do the same thing, with the best coaches may take half a year. I don't know. Plus, it takes, especially if you take therapy on top of that, just doing all that soul searching and revisiting all these old traumas and bad experiences and stuff like that. I mean, definitely that takes a lot of time and effort and energy. What I'm talking about takes no energy, just sitting through a lecture and allowing certain processes within you get triggered, and then let them do their work, and they're fully in control. And then you feel when you're near the completion, and then basically this is it. It's a very simple project. Yes, there are certain people who are immune to that, and but then they don't need this because they're there already. It could have taken them a whole lifetime to get there, and then there's nothing I can do for them because they're already, let's call them like, whichever way you see, enlightened. So they're already conscious, enlightened, and fully, happy, fully awakened. So they don't need to go through my program. My program is basically just for those who just need to do it quick, and they would appreciate the fact they kind of go through that. And I understand that, I'm not counting that once they complete the program they will stick with any of my undertakings and stuff, or participate in it in this way or the other. The ego can always kick in, and it's just like, okay, thank you very much, I just wash off my hands and get about my business. It's the same question I like asking people, especially those big names in coaching. I said, like, how long do you think people are grateful after their lives, his or her life has been saved? Do they stay grateful forever? Of course everybody says for eternity. Well, technically speaking, it's a very short duration of gratitude, just because your ego, your mind, they all rebel against this thought of staying grateful to someone for this. 20 minutes later, you just forget about this. You don't want to see this person anymore, because you sort of like feel like you are indebted to them. And for a lot of people, this is an unbearable thought, other than just being humble and sort of like saying, remaining grateful. People usually begin to battle this. So coming out of this program, it could also be the fact that people may not necessarily cherish this idea of sticking around, and being part of something I do. That's quite okay. I mean, we're not actually looking for some, dedicated people who are straining to appear, committed. It's basically just for those people who just want to stay connected to what we do and appreciate our effort. That's all. It's not like it's something of a, of a mandatory thing. No, I just say normally, like, look, this is something I do. That's what you can take. If you feel like this is the program that you really want to do, it's great. Then after the program, if you feel like you want to do something, or you may want to develop a project in your company that's implementing part of what we do, that would be even better. So this is a very simple, transparent operation. It's not a devious plan to actually, use some mind control over people. That's what usually sects cults do. So that's a very straightforward approach, and I hope it works. Well, it's not meant to be working for everybody, and we're not looking to bring everybody into the program. What's enough for us just would be some few select individuals who may find this program worthy of their time, and that's all what we expect from them. So stay tuned, we'll be talking more about it in other episodes.